Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So, ahead of Tesla's quarter 1 delivery numbers likely to be received this Wednesday, April 2nd, we got the company compiled consensus and it came in at 377,592. This figure is from 27 different analysts, and I would say that's materially higher than the Whisper number. As far as I can tell, I would put the Whisper number closer to about 355,000. And just like it's been easy to find new cases of people vandalizing Teslas seemingly daily, it's also been pretty easy to find new people coming out to support Tesla, buying Tesla vehicles that wouldn't have otherwise considered doing so. Just remember, some of that support isn't going to show up until quarter 2 and later this year. Let's say Tesla hits the consensus figure of 377,000. There's still a reasonable path to doing 1.8 million sales for the year. That would leave about 442,000 for quarter 2, 486,000 for Q3, and then 545,000 for Q4. And don't forget, we're getting closer and closer to these more affordable models, which yes, will cannibalize Tesla's Y in 3 sales to some degree, but as I've laid out in the past using some data, I do believe Tesla offering these more affordable models and opening up a significantly larger TAM will more than offset any cannibalization, and of course ultimately lead to a material increase in annual sales once production is ramped up. Jan of the EV Universe put together a really nice thread covering EV sales across 58 different markets for 2024. These markets covered 99.7% of all full BEV sales. I'll have the full thread linked below, but I wanted to share this slide. 16 different markets have now reached over 20% in full EV market share in 2024. 3 of those are over 50%, those being Norway, Hong Kong, and Denmark, and another 4 are over 30%, being Malta, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Singapore. And just a fun fact, China for 2024, full BEV sales were just under 25%, and California was just under 22%. You guys know I love to zoom out, so here's that chart tracking full BEV sales by year, and in 2024 it saw 5% growth relative to 2023, which yes, was certainly a material slowdown from years prior. But between policy changes, the popularization of hybrids, legacy OEMs' failures to bring great EVs to market, a slowdown was to be expected. I always look forward to Tesla's P&D reports, although I've never really put that much stock into any single one. Nothing is changing for this quarter. If anything, I may put even less weight in it given everything going on. Primarily the changeover to the new Model Y. But there are some encouraging signs for quarter 2 and beyond. Tesla Chan shared some images of customers waiting in line in Korea to check out the new Model Y. Tesla Manufacturing shared today that Giga Berlin has built the 500,000th Model Y cumulatively. Now, let's put this into context. The first customer vehicle delivery from Giga Berlin was March 2022. So, doing some math using Tesla's prior announcements for production rates at Giga Berlin paired with some figures from Troy Teslike, it's likely that Giga Berlin produced right around 200,000 vehicles for 2024 and 2023, leaving the remaining 100,000 split between 2023, quarters 2 through 4, and quarter 1 of 2025. So we'll call it 50,000 for 2023 for the ramp and 50,000 for Q1 this year. So what does that mean? Well, Tesla's peak production at Giga Berlin so far has been right around 200,000 units per year, whereas the listed capacity at Berlin is over 375,000, which works out to a utilization rate of about 53%, certainly not ideal. As is often the case, there's a lot more to the story. This factory has helped Tesla avoid EU tariffs on cars from China and has led to Tesla localizing most of its supply chain around Giga Berlin for vehicles destined for Germany and surrounding areas. So I'd say this, so far Giga Berlin probably has been a letdown relative to expectations set by Tesla. Not that it's been a failure, but I do think even Elon would admit the red tape and the pushback from Berlin even before all of the political drama may have been unexpected when Tesla set up shop. shop. And we've covered the reports over the past few months that Tesla had plans to double production from Giga Berlin from 500,000 units to 1 million per year. But as we just deduced, Tesla hasn't even hit half of that 500,000 figure yet from Berlin. So we'll see what happens with these more affordable models and the Cybercab, but for now, there are definitely questions out there about Giga Berlin's future. On the topic of Giga Berlin, Romain posted a picture of two Model Ys out front of Giga Berlin, one saying drive and the other saying rent me, but I believe this program is only for Giga Berlin employees. Elon shared a post from Sawyer saying, as I've said previously, unsupervised full self-driving Teslas will be carrying passengers in Austin in June and many cities in America by end of year. This will enable passenger cars to increase in utility by roughly half an order of magnitude overnight with a software update. It's also worth sharing what David Faber from CNBC said. I had the opportunity to ride in a Tesla this weekend on FSD. It's worth doing. The steering wheel was not touched. The technology is real. People are driving 100 miles out of New York City and not touching the steering wheel once. So it's like, welcome to the party, David. We've been trying to tell you guys this now for really the past few years. But I guess it's true what they say, better late than never. I'll say it again because I'm seeing a lot of people on forums across the internet expecting Cybercab to be delivering these robotaxi rides in June. For whatever it's worth, my expectation for June is that this program will start with Tesla's current lineup, Model 3 and Y, and maybe a few S and X as well. My main rationale for this is Franz and Lars both saying the Cybercab would remain in prototype form for this year and then enter actual production next year. But yes, I would love to be wrong on this one. And yes, it's easy to get excited about this many cities in America by the end of the year, but that could just mean multiple cities across both Texas and California because so far those are the only two states that have been explicitly mentioned for this year. And I would say this one's definitely not nothing. We have an executive from Bosch in China saying that Tesla's FSD is generationally ahead of domestic solutions. He said, I test drove the Cybertruck in the US. After the test drive, I was truly amazed. It brought me three distinct features: extreme confidence, extreme safety, and extreme comfort. These three differentiators are experiences that no domestic manufacturing plan can offer. The algorithm level of this end-to-end model is far ahead of all domestic manufacturing. And what do you know? Elon replied to Herbert, who shared this post, saying accurate. Elon also said, we could have done a neighborhood-by-neighborhood handcrafted solution with high-resolution maps and expensive sensors much sooner, but that doesn't scale well and gets destroyed by real-world AI and cameras, which I'm sure most of you can pick up on is a direct shot at the Waymo business model. Samsung has kicked off production of its 46 series cylindrical batteries, and these will be shipped to a customer in the US and will first be used in micromobility with EVs set to follow. The cells are being made in South Korea and they're being assembled into modules in Vietnam. There's actually another report that's saying it's not just Samsung, but LG has also started mass producing 46 series batteries. They said the Korean battery manufacturers are worried about Tesla's dry battery electrode process, which could be a game changer. If Samsung is focusing on the 4695s, when they get around to EV deliveries, Rivian could be on the list as that's the specific size that Rivian will be using for the R2. But don't forget, LG is set to supply Tesla with 4680s from its factory in Arizona. And it has been confirmed Samsung is planning to make 4680s for Tesla. But the reason Samsung and LG might be worried about Tesla's DBE is because that would give Tesla a lot more leverage in these supply negotiations. Reason being, if Tesla's making a more efficient, more energy dense, more cost-effective cell in-house, then clearly they would not be as eager to use outside cells. And the word for now, these Korean companies are expecting to be able to produce DBE cells by 2028. So if Tesla hits its goal of actually using DBE in production vehicles for both electrodes, this is another arena where Tesla could have a multi-year advantage. This time on battery companies, which really is impressive, but as we've been saying, will take time to show up on Tesla's income statement. I have a confession to make. I spend most of my waking hours consuming content. I constantly think there's not enough time in the day to do everything I'd like to do. I've always been very interested in performance optimization since my early days as an athlete.
Rouse gets it over to Loomis. Loomis for three, and he nails it! Dylan Loomis with the big three! Wow! Fence. Time gets it out to Loomis. Loomis for three, and he nails it! Dylan Loomis
he hits
nails the three! Ties the game. The second big three from Dylan Loomis tonight.
Unbelievable, Mike.
Ties the score at 50.
Today, that means I watch a lot of Andrew Huberman, Peter Attia, and I've been focused on business efficiency the past few years given what I'm working on behind the scenes, which has brought Tim Ferriss and Sahil Bloom into my rotation. Can you guess what all four of these high-performing individuals have in common? They've all been drinking AG1 for years and recommending that others do as well. AG1 is the sponsor of this episode for perhaps just a little while longer, but you've heard from me a lot, so listen to what these guys have said. Tim Ferriss said, "I get asked all the time, if you could use only one supplement, what would it be? My answer is usually AG1, my all-in-one nutritional insurance. Importantly, I recommend it in the 4-hour body in 2010 and did not get paid to do so." Andrew Huberman said, "This is the supplement I recommend when asked what is the one best thing to take. For me, taking AG1 is a non-negotiable everyday practice." And on this point, because I know a few of you will think, well, yeah, he's part of the AG1 advisory board, of course he's going to say that. I get it, but listen, do you not think that Huberman could be a part of any company like this that he wanted to? There's a reason he chose to partner with AG1, and Peter Attia actually speaks to this. If you think AG1 is expensive, Peter Attia has acknowledged that, but he said he can speak to the quality of the product because he's seen how the sausage is made, and he takes a scoop of AG1 every day regardless of what he's eating. Let me make this simple. Here's the list of AG1 ingredients, so do an exercise. Find however many individual supplements you would need to match the ingredients of AG1 and see how much that would cost. And don't forget, you have to seek out the best sourcing of those others because AG1 sources its ingredients incredibly well and is actually quite transparent with this if you want to look into it. And yes, trying out AG1 for yourself for a few months is a great way to support the channel, so if you'd like to get some free travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2, you can head to drinkag1.com/electrified linked below, or you can use the QR code on the screen. Cheers. 17 Tesla vehicles were destroyed after a fire broke out at a Tesla location in Rome. They said they're investigating all avenues while looking into how the fire started, but so far they have not ruled out arson. If this does end up being arson and not an accident, then you would expect Giorgia Meloni, who's Elon's friend and ally, to come out and condemn these attacks as soon as possible. This is still a developing story, but the word is these vehicles were awaiting customer deliveries. The story of the weekend was the Tesla takedown protests across the country and really across the world, but there were some counter protests of people supporting Elon, Tesla, and Doge. Unfortunately, the latter upset this individual who decided to drive his vehicle and actually hit one of these counter protesters. Thankfully, he's been charged with aggravated assault. I'm sharing though because Elon replied to this saying the violence against Tesla is insane. Elon also said, "Sure is insanely ironic that the people shooting bullets into Tesla stores, burning down cars, and generally being violent are calling me a Nazi when I have done literally zero violence at all." I've been looking for some evidence proving that these protesters were paid to be there, and you'll see on the Indivisible website an event reimbursement form. The Indivisible project can reimburse groups for eligible expenses associated with your Musk or Us actions up to $200 per group per congressional recess. But there's a note: if you plan on incurring expenses that you can't cover using this reimbursement and your own group's funds, please check in with your Indivisible organizer. So publicly, they're framing this as reimbursement, but yeah, color me skeptical on that one. But look, the point is you have groups and organizations that are 100% funding these protests. And I have to say, this was quite an interesting read. Alexandra, Tesla Boomer Mama, Elon actually shared the Google Doc for the Tesla Takedown Action Toolkit. There was a step-by-step guide on how to do this, including ideas for chants below. So if the protests felt inorganic, well, it's because they largely were. And here's a picture that Elon shared of these pre-scripted chants for everybody to use. They even shared sample social media posts for these people to share. Some good news, the lunatic that assaulted the woman driving her Tesla in the middle of a road in Arizona has been arrested for disorderly conduct and could be facing up to 20 years in prison. We also have Ryan Williams, who vandalized a Cybertruck, being charged with felony criminal mischief. He actually admitted to police that his act was part of the Tesla takedown day. The Minnesota police were looking for this woman who vandalized a Tesla, and a few hours later she was identified. This man, who took pliers to a Cybertruck, has been ID'd and there's a warrant out for his arrest. There's now reporting coming out that these protests are the product of a well-funded, tightly coordinated campaign led by national political organizations like the Indivisible Project, MoveOn.org, and professional protest firms. Asra Nomani shared a very detailed thread about the topic. We're not diving into it, but it'll be linked below if you're interested. She said 24 organizations and counting are funding and organizing the Tesla takedown protests. Chamath Palihapitiya said, "It's clear to me the domestic terrorism against Tesla is not bottoms-up vandalism. It's an organized effort to pressure Elon to walk away from Doge. There are moneyed interests that have benefited for decades from the organized leakage from the government. It's clear that Doge is finding and stopping it. The incentive then to hire rent-a-protesters and pay for organized terrorism is clear. What they don't understand is Elon will double and triple down." So yes, I shared those examples because I find it encouraging that many of these vandals are indeed being caught, but what Elon said is true. It's time to arrest those funding the attacks. Arresting their puppets and paid foot soldiers will not stop the violence. But look at the bright side. Even somebody like Piers Morgan is now saying, if these morons keep attacking Teslas, I may buy one. To balance out some of the hate against the Cybertruck, No Clue on X said, "Our Cybertruck saved my life and the life of my 5-year-old daughter. We were T-boned by a drunk driver who ran a red going 60 miles per hour. The police on the scene told us if we had been in any other vehicle, the car would have flipped and been torn in half." He said, "I'll be buying a new Cyberbeast this week. If you love your family, buy a Tesla." A new report from Bloomberg NEF is predicting Australia is on the cusp of a big battery boom that could deliver 18 gigawatts of installed storage capacity by 2035, an 8-fold increase from the 2.3 gigawatts installed at the end of last year. The electricity market volatility, supportive government policies, and expected coal plant closures are driving potentially huge growth in big battery capacity as Australia shifts to renewables. And they're saying the battery boom is looking likely regardless of the outcome from the federal election. According to the Australian energy market operator, utility-scale batteries earned a record-breaking $165.4 million from arbitrage in 2024, more than triple the amount earned in 2023. Even in the short term, the report predicts Australia will reach 9.9 gigawatts of deployed battery storage by 2027. And don't forget, these power figures can be multiplied by 3 if you assume an average 3-hour duration. So in this case, rounding up to 10, that would be 30 gigawatt hours by 2027. That up from about 7 gigawatt hours at the end of last year. And we know the Megapack is quite popular in Australia, and we also know that AutoBidder is a leading contributor to these arbitrage figures. That's because we just talked last week how Tesla still maintains about 1/3 of the battery storage market in Australia. Tesla is now offering a 3-year zero-interest loan option across the entire lineup in China for the first time. This limited time promotion runs through April 30th, but it does include the new Model Y. Tesla's also extending incentives to the Model 3, where it has a 5-year zero-interest financing option. And we got some good news in China. Tesla has enabled the resumption of a previously halted 1-month free trial of the new FSD, which they're calling Intelligent Assisted Driving. driving. Just know I've decided going forward I'm going to continue referring to it as FSD so as to avoid confusion. And even bigger news, Tesla confirmed today that both Hardware 3 and Hardware 4 vehicles will receive FSD in China, where to date it has only been Hardware 4 vehicles that have access. Tesla began internal testing of FSD 12.6 on Hardware 3 vehicles with employees last week. So the Hardware 3 rollout to customers has not begun yet, but we're close. If you have the latest Tesla mobile app and you live in the right place, you may now see the Tesla Diner with a view menu and amenities option in the mobile app. Elon replied to Galley saying a crazy amount of execution is needed to get there, but I do see a path to world's biggest company. Which, yes, I'll admit feels a bit muted after hearing Elon talk about $20 trillion plus valuations just a few months back. But hey, I would say in fairness, let's just start with step one, the biggest company in the world, and we'll go from there.
There is nothing about the price action of the stock that tells you whether you should keep owning it. What tells you whether you should keep owning it is what you expect the company to do in the future versus the price at which it's selling now, compared to the other opportunities of businesses that you think you know equally well, and make that same comparison. And that's all there is to owning stocks.
Replying to that, Elon said, true. Tesla stock closed the day at $259.16, down 1.67%, while the NDX was down 0.02%. It was yet another higher volume day, trading 16% above the average. Don't forget, check out AG1 linked below for those of you interested, and as always, thank you for supporting the channel. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.